Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the show. This week, our guest is Jose Otero. He's a broadcast engineer based in Denver, Colorado. Welcome, Jose.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay, no worries. Well, I'd like to start off by just saying, how did you start off and how did you get into the broadcast media industry?
So originally, I'm from Puerto Rico, and there's a few broadcast stations over there. But I started as a DJ, making music for my friends and all that. We used to have parties in our garages, and I basically borrowed my dad's old stereo that he had laying around since 1994 and didn't even use. So I started using that early on, and as people continued to pay me just because they wanted to, throw parties around, and I started, benefiting from that. I started growing my equipment as well. And that's basically how I started. That also evolved into a spot in a local radio station where I was a kid back then. I used to probably have like 12 or 13 years at that point. And I had my own spot in the radio station where we were basically talking or talking about topics relating to specific problems that affected the youth at the moment. That lasted for a few months. And so, that was like my beginning inside the broadcast industry. And later on, I continued to participate in, a lot of activities inside, my high school, again, doing sound engineering, doing mixing, DJing, also MCing, being host and moderator. Which basically opened the doors for me to study broadcast, or in this case, it's called communications technology in a university in Puerto Rico. That was like my first, how I enter in my first experience in terms of broadcasting.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because I'm always interested to find out if there was like a calling sign for people coming in. Was there any sort of flags or signposts along the way? It sounds like those ones you just mentioned, growing up as a teenager, were certainly sort of flags and indicators, perhaps.
Yeah, and I've spoken with a lot of peers and colleagues, and most of us basically started the same way, either being a DJ or just mixing music, and sort of that transponded to where we are right now. And I think that's something very common with people working in this industry, at least on this side of the continent, right? Where we'll start doing either having a little segment on a local radio station, small radio station, and just growing from there, and finding that spark to continue. Also, in journalism or any other medium inside the broadcast industry.
Yeah, sure. And I guess so. What caught you is the sound side, the audio side, and I guess when you progress through your academic years, did you slowly begin to find out, more of a specialism that you wanted to go into, more engineering, or sort of audio and video together?
So when I finished I had 2 degrees actually. When I finished my first degree, which is in communication technology, that's more focused on media production, right? And not only media as we see it in broadcast, but also film industry, journalism, all that. I finished my degree, and right after that, I started in a film company in Puerto Rico, and I started doing web pages, which is totally not related to what I studied, but it was the first job I got. And that opened up the doors to do web pages into local TV stations. Actually, this still is a non-commercial TV station, which in the UK would be something like BBC. In here is a PBS affiliate station. So I started doing web pages there. They acquire all these new equipment. At the time, I was working with web servers, but the administration over there, they all these servers and computer systems that were being integrated into the broadcast workflow was fairly new to them. So when they heard the word servers, they automatically related that to what I was doing. So they included me in the projects, and it was totally not related. I have to say, it was something very new, very daunting. But I took it as a challenge. I'm a self-learner. So I started, going through the manuals, speaking to the people that actually handle that technology. And I started learning about, managing these systems, and, sort of became the expert at the station to create these virtual sets at that moment, tapeless digital workflows. So that actually was the thing that propelled me to move on into electrical engineering, because in Puerto Rico we don't have a specific career or degree that it's broadcast engineering, right?
Yeah.
But electrical engineering was the closest thing because it's digital signal processing, control systems, wireless, when we moved to the RF portion of things. So I started that second degree in electrical engineering, and it kind of took off from there. You know, I moved on to another station, started working with broadcast IT, and start learning, you know, about the how technology in the broadcast stations integrate with IP, which is a different niche as well, because it's not the same systems information technology that you see in a corporate environment, where in broadcast it's a little bit different. We do use similar systems, like, you know, there's an Active Directory, we have group policy object, which is all lingo for, you know, for systems information. But when you migrate to broadcast technology, we have to tweak those to make it work for our workflow, because we're dealing with a lot of heavy traffic in terms of IP.
Yeah.
So not going to, you know, I don't want to go to that rabbit hole, but basically that was the thing that inspired me to continue on a more technology side of things, and got me to where I am today.
Yeah, and it's interesting how, you know, you took that first job being sort of in the web space, really, and it involved servers, but look how well it served, because over the past, say, 10 or 15 years, or even probably going up to 20 years now, there's been an amalgamation of IT and broadcast engineering, right? So that gave you some great grounding, you know, all those years ago.
Absolutely. I mean, and up to, you know, till today, it's paying off. You know, there's a lot of, we're in this transition where still we're looking at technologies that still work with a little of what we call the old technology, which is, you know, the SDI cable, or the, you know, the coax cable pulling SDI data. And now that we see this transitioning to, you know, a full Cat 5e or Cat 6 cable, or fiber in this case, because we have with 702110, which is the new standard for video over IP protocol, then, you know, we see those migrations. There's other, you know, technologies out there that are for compressed video to be transported into a Cat 6 cable, which is a full Ethernet cable, like, for example, NDI, which is the new tech protocol. And those are the things that have given me that, you know, edge, or putting me ahead of the curve, because I already understand and have the experience of getting my hands to work with that technology, that when this thing, you know, when these technologies launch for the first time, I already have that foundation that I can continue to build upon.
Yeah, that's amazing. And also, you've sort of made the move from Puerto Rico to the US, and from sort of public service broadcasting to commercial broadcasting. Is there any big differences in those worlds?
There is. There's a huge difference. So after, in 2017, Puerto Rico suffered a major catastrophic hurricane called Maria. The station that I was working on at the moment, we lost our, you know, our transmitter and our tower. Everything was lost in the hurricane. So at that point, I had to make a decision, you know, to continue to grow my career, right? Either it was changing career paths, or just maintaining the same career path, but moving towards the U.S., or in this case, since Puerto Rico was part of the U.S., then what we call the mainland. And I saw this opportunity to continue in non-commercial television, because the thing that I like about non-commercial is that you are more focused on, you know, doing things right. Like, you know, you're not, even though I cannot say, you know, that the current company that I work for, it's like that. But I've heard about other colleagues that, you know, there's, you know, they're limited to the amount, you know, to budgets and all that to acquire technology. And, you know, non-commercial is the same way. But in this case, is, you know, it's more focused on getting things right the first way, and you have a little bit more flexibility. It's not crucial because, you know, it's all publicly funded. So I think if in my case, I started in the public industry, it was a very good school for me to continue to learn on. So I moved here to Denver to work on the city and county of Denver municipality, and they have what we call here a PEG station, which stands for Public Educational Government Access TV. So it's basically creating a TV channel for a cable provider channel.
Yeah.
Cable providers have to pay a fee, and that's basically gets reinserted into the community. So as the chief engineer there, I was in charge of the technology and overseeing also the partners that we had to provide that PEG service to the community in Denver.
Oh,
And
wow.
after a while, I made some. I've always been a very people person, and everywhere I go, I meet people and like to talk. I met this team in NBC Universal, and when Precision opened here in the Telemundo station in Denver, since I'm fluent in both English and Spanish, it was a good it's a good opportunity for me to move into the commercial side, which has been, it's not totally different, but like you said, the administrative process is a little bit different. Things are a little bit more critical because this is a business now, so we need to maintain a revenue source, which in this case is our on-air programming. That also impacts our what we call our multi-video platform providers, which is the cable providers, satellite providers that feed off our on-air signal. So it's the responsibility is a bit more, but so is the process, right? The knowledge base that you get.
Yeah. And I guess just thinking about that sort of a brave decision to sort of move to the US, pursue your career in a brand new place. Just drawing parallels from maybe the upcoming graduates are going to leave university campus this year. Is it just being brave? Is it about pushing your boundaries and believing in yourself, really?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, you have to be true to yourself. Like you have to know what do you want, with this new career that you're, getting yourself into. If how far are you willing to take it? And no answer is right. I mean, not one answer is right. I think all the answers are correct. It's just the best one that fit to your expectations. I've learned about people that are, very good broadcasters or very good reporters, but they want to stay where they are because they want to report to their community and they have a commitment to their community. And that's fine. I mean, that's very honorable as well. In my case, I wanted to professionally, jumpstart my career. And knowing in Puerto Rico at that time, it was impossible for me. I made the decision to move. I've worked with people that right out of college, they decided to look for a bigger market or just start somewhere else, and that's fine too. But I think that's a decision that it's very personal, and it's just how much of it are you or how do you want to take your career moving forward. So like I said, some people, they want to stay in their communities, they want to provide a service to their community, and that's very honorable as well. And some people, they just want to focus on their career. In my case, I do at some point contemplate to return back to Puerto Rico and, and give them the knowledge that I learned here and grow, my community and how do we inform our community. So it's kind of like, for me, I chose this path because it's going to give me more resources so that when I return, then, it's going to be better for us. So.
Yeah, that's a great story. And, did you even, think it was, a job title that you even imagined, being chief engineer and technology manager? It seems to be sort of really working for you right now, Jose.
Well, I mean, I think so. Titles are very good. They look very good in a resume. I love what I do. I mean, I get to work with technology that not a lot of people are, get to work on. And that for me, it's very, it's very fulfilling, to be honest. And I love it.
Yeah.
Like I wake up every day and I love coming to the station to work, especially during these tough times where, we have this whole pandemic thing going on, and people are in need of information. It actually gives me a sense of purpose to be part of that community where we inform our people and say, hey, this is what's going on. These are the centers that you can, get tested. This is what's happening with the vaccine. So I think for me to be part of that process of, disseminating the information, it's thrilling. I forgot what we were the line of the
well, I was going to ask you, that the high points of your career, and you just mentioned right now you're providing, broadcasting for the nation essentially. Is there any other sort of moments that stick out for you, in the past few years that really sort of stood out?
Well, I mean, I have to say, like, even though when I was in Puerto Rico and we lost our antenna and our transmitter and everything, we still had the commitment to inform our community of what was going on. Either if it was through another outlets, which we did, we actually had the opportunity to work with other stations from United States, radio stations in this case, to get a simple antenna on the air and start broadcasting for our community. And I was part of the team that we went to. So Puerto Rico is actually a set of islands. So one of the smaller islands, we went over there. It's called Vieques. And we went to Vieques to set up the local FM station over there so that the people in Vieques could get the information. I think that was one of the most experiences that had the most impact to me, because even though we're not in it for the recognition, because nobody knew who were the people that work on it, and honestly I don't mind that, because I'm not in it for the recognition, but I know that I was part of of getting that community the information they needed to get food to their tables, to know where the status on getting electrical power were, when the ferry started working, and it was a good thing to be part of that experience.
Amazing. And I'd just like to sort of talk a little bit about recently how you've stepped up as chief engineer or technology manager, but you've also had to sort of it's not just about engineering anymore. It's about projects. It's about operations. It's about the commercial side. Could you just explain a little bit about those sides and how it matters in these current roles?
Yeah. So I think right now, and we're not the only company doing this. There's I think all the TV stations. I have other colleagues working in other markets with other companies. We're all looking for the same thing. We're all trying to figure out how to make technology work to our advantage, make it more efficient, more cost effective, so that we can produce more content. Because at the end of the day, that's what's important. Content is king. This is something that in the industry you're going to hear a lot. Content is king. So producing that content, that's what we want to focus on. So if we can reduce costs and improve our operation with the technology, then it's going to work out for us, because then we can invest that money into producing content. Right now, like you said, Ben, I'm working as a manager of technology. And even though it's a great title, it wasn't my drive. My drive was actually being part of that leadership. Was it being in the leadership team to actually make these decisions and work with this technology, figure out these workflows so that we can get the best technology possible and put it in practice. I think that's the best thing that I have in this position, is that I get to be part of that decision-making process and get these innovative protocols in place and see them happening. Once you put something in paper and then you execute it and you see the product, it's thrilling.
And it's especially content is king. You must have dealt with studios and the post-production side, a lot of content management systems, playout systems, even the whole spectrum down to distribution and RF and that sort of arena.
Yeah. I mean, everything that I'm responsible for, it's basically, it encompasses all that. From our content management systems right now, we're in the process of upgrading what we call our MAM, this is our media asset management system, just because our old one doesn't have enough storage, right? And we want to upgrade it to a bigger storage unit and have more tools for our reporters out in the field. So now instead of using an application, they can use a web page, a web browser to do their edits and all that. So let's continue to use the technology. In the RF side, we recently replaced our transmitter with what we call a solid state transmitter, which it's less space that's occupied in the building, less heat load. It's more efficient in terms of how it produces power. Whereas, the old transmitter, we had what we call a 2-cabinet transmitter, where if we lose one cabinet, then we go 50% power automatically. And this one, if we lose one of the amps, then, we're down to 25, 24%. So it's not that big of a hit. So those are the things that you get to, decide and work on so that we can continue to deliver our product to our community.
Wow. You got to be across like the whole of the technology stack everywhere, basically.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
people,
amazing.
I've heard people talk, and they tend to kind of like target going to these bigger markets like New York, Texas, Florida. I like the Telemundo Denver station that I work on, because even though, Denver is a big market, but when, we're targeting a niche inside this market, which is a Hispanic community. So we're not that big of a station, but because we're not that big of a station, we do get to actually, make decisions on a lot of other stuff. Whereas if you're in a bigger market, everything gets segmented, right? If you're in charge of post-production, then you only get to work with post-production systems. If you're in charge with the RF side, you get to work with the RF side. And in my case, I get to work with all of it, which is,
wow.
it's what I like, even though it's in a smaller scale, it's still the same technology, just, applied differently.
Yeah. And what does success mean for you, Jose, in your career? What makes you drive? What's the passion?
In my case, it's just knowing that what we're doing, number one, has a positive impact to our community. I think that's the number one reason why I do what I do. Number two, it's knowing that what I do, it's something that it's positive for the company and for the team. I'm a strong believer in working as a team. I've been a leader in some cases. I've been, a team member in other cases, and, following great leaders as well. And I think being part of that team and realizing that the work that we're doing is actually impacting positively. And if, we're not perfect, so sometimes we make mistakes as well. But when we learn from those mistakes and, and are able to fix those mistakes and apply them to real case scenarios, I think that's what drives me the most, right? Those two things.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I always like to ask the question, a bit of sort of looking back is, if you could meet your 18-year-old self now, Jose, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself, I would have told myself, you know what, why don't you start your engineering degree a little bit sooner? I think that was the thing that's the only thing. And even that I wouldn't change, but it took me a little bit more than I would have anticipated. But at the end, I was able to finish it and complete my degree. But it's basically the only thing. I think everything that I did up to this point, I have zero regrets, because it led me to where I am today. And yeah, it's been a fun ride.
It was meant to be, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And so if people want to connect with you, they're free to connect with you on LinkedIn. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there you go. My LinkedIn is all there on the screen. I'm very active on it. I like to share posts from our company's career platform. If somebody's interested, or if you want some guidance or mentorship, I'm also open to that. I like conversations. So if anybody just wants to start a conversation and talk about this beautiful industry that not a lot of people know how beautiful it is because they don't understand it, then I'm open to that too.
That's brilliant. That's linkedin.com/in/OJOSE. That's brilliant, Jose. So I'd just like to say thanks. You've been a great guest.
No, thank you, Ben. Thanks for the opportunity. And, I'm always looking to share my bit of experiences and knowledge with the community. So I appreciate you putting me in this podcast.
That's awesome. Talk to you later.